here in the 100 Thieves. And yeah, as we mentioned, that really shoots them up the leaderboard. A couple of other teams unfortunately finished off with donuts. Source X and Y had a chance to really get off to this series with a bang, but unfortunately it's a donut for them in the final game. They still end up in 7th, certainly above the pace that they need to be if they want to make it into that top 20. But look, the story here in this series was Fnatic.
Hey, when you have it any other way, that's how you start an opening here. When you're in Sapporo, when you got the home crowd rallying right behind you. 65 total points, not too far off is 100 Thieves there with 51 points, still being able to wrap up and get that 2nd place. TSM, too, we're slowly clawing their way up, but I also want to highlight, it's not just TSM, Guild, VP, Shopify. When I went into this event, Genome, I knew that we have the heaviest hitters going into these lobbies, that it was so difficult to predict which of these squads were going to come out on top. Just look how close that overall leaderboard is within this first 2 groups alone.
Yeah, it is quite heavy up the top there, and some interesting situations towards the bottom and the middle there. I mean, Complexity, only a few kill points, really having to rely on their placement points. So they're getting into good spots. Monsoon is navigating them well, but then they're failing on the execution. And it was the flip side with Oblivion, who really, managed to get quite a few kills in the early games, but then seem to be stumbling when they have to get into Zone 3, Zone 4.
Yeah, we see that consistently, right? Because Complexity had approached that final zone over by Thermal, rotating away from launch site, managing to find some space on the other side of the lava, and utilizing that charge rifle that we see Monsoon really take advantage of. It's been a fantastic look at our first 2 groups. I want to hear more from the desk. Rainday, take it away.
Thank you so much, Vicky, Katie, and Gino back on the mic. It's great to hear everyone in action in our Daiwa house here. The crowd is alive, electric, and so are the players. And I think the theme, as we welcome you back to the desk, Rainday, Clear Explosion, Snipe Down, and Jamerson, is that these teams are starting to create the narratives for us. We come in here with our questions, but they've certainly answered them. And on your screen right there, 100 Thieves, how many questions did these guys have, Lauren? Now, certainly silencing the doubters, certainly giving hope to the fandom, and I think Design at this point will get recognized by Nadeshot if he ever sees him in a lobby.
that's the ultimate goal, right? No, really though. Phenomenal way to close out that series, too. That was an opportunity for them to have a strong finish there based off of their drop, and they played it exactly how it needed to be played. And we saw the chaos at the end. They bided a time yet again behind all of those walls and just cleaned it up.
And really, you can't ignore the fact that, Jamerson, I'm going to go this to you, Fnatic showed up in a major way. This is kind of the ideal opening. You're in front of your home crowd, and you have a performance like this, double wins as well. They're certainly looking like a top contender to take this whole thing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how things, how history kind of echoed here, right? Yeah. Fnatic take game 1, 100 Thieves take game 2, Fnatic take game 5, and then 100 Thieves answer back. But the important part here for me, especially in that last game for 100 Thieves, was being able to see them play hard zone, right?
Yeah.
We know that they want to be able to get into fights. They want to get aggressive early on. But when you get a pull like that into Thermal Station, they had to play that exactly correctly. And I think they were able to kind of temper more of their aggressive style and play a style that really doesn't fit them quite often. And that comes from experience, right? Designful dropped down at Thermal Station for so long, and he knows the ins and outs of Thermal Station and Thermal Station zones. And I feel like that for them to be able to come together like this and utilize that experience really is what paid off here in game number 6.
That's a great point. Let's look at the final circles here to wrap up our final 3 games that just occurred in our first series of the day. Got 2 more coming up for you as well. Game 4, Snipe, this is where NRG got that win, got on the board.
Yeah, this is one of those games where it's kind of one of those things where it's like the first person to make the move, sometimes it's the right thing, but NRG just sat back. They had both Fnatic and TSM on them in their building. Fnatic went right, TSM went left, and NRG just said, all right, well, we'll just take all the space in front of us, let all those teams push up the hill to each other. They ended up all getting into fights. They played this rock, played back. You can see it happening right here. They're just literally letting all these teams kill each other. We saw how many people were on that wall. And then they're able to just pick them off. The Sheila gameplay has been so much fun to watch this tournament already. Just the way it makes the Gibraltar kind of like shuffle around, doing a little shimmy or something. But yeah, this is just great execution and great just patience out of NRG as a whole to come out with this win. And then they just played the bubbles, barely pushed up, let the other teams knock each other. And we just get to see the final little win there with the Sheila.
You think high ground is always the answer, but a lot of low ground wins. Guild earlier in our set, and then now obviously you see that with NRG. Lauren, game 5, it would turn back to familiar faces.
Yeah, and once again, we also saw Meteor up there in the discussion for a long time, sitting on that tower for a decent chunk of it and able to clear these squads up below. Fnatic, though, swung into exactly where that final ring was going to be pulling, and they were able to hold that low ground when Meteor did drop down, started doing damage, and once again, it's the chaos of the Rampart walls. It's all of the Gibby bubbles, trying to find the right time in to push, get those shotgun shots in, but Fnatic has just been so successful with their aggression. They are always moving as a unit and once again find success.
And they were so sneaky to get that Sheila behind everyone. I don't think they saw it coming, Jamerson, but you do hear it, that's for sure, when it starts ringing. 100 Thieves, we just saw this game of Jamerson, one away for them to close out their first set of the day and their only set of today.
Yeah, typically when you see this like thermal station pull down for the first ring, a lot of teams from Thermal will default as like playing that center zone, playing the center tower, right?
Yes.
But instead they decided to play Pipeline all the way on the western edge of the map. And in that way, they were able to conserve a lot of their economy, and they had a safer rotate in once the zone pulled away from them. Luckily for them, it didn't pull too far away. They were able to creep up. There was almost no resistance in it. And this really showed off how important it is to be able to really just sit on your hands, right? When it comes to a game like Apex, where you want to get involved in a lot of these fights and you want to be in a position where you can get a lot of KP, it can be a bit of a distraction. But for them, they realized, hey, this is an easy win for us. Let's play the safer position on the western houses and then rotate in once the zone pulls away from us. And luckily for them, the lobby really did cooperate in that regard. We had a lot of fights in the north of the northern choke points, and of course in the northeast side with the team scrambling in, and then they were able to ultimately close it out.
I love that phrase, sitting on your hands. You're noticing this Newcastle mind game of who's going to ult first. It's the same thing with Gibraltar, but it's just a queue. And also, you're looking at Rampart playing these open zones. You have 3 characters that have incredible shielding. We haven't really had metas where we've had this much shielding in these kind of LAN environments. So these areas are now more likely to be played. You're not necessarily going to have to sit under the cover that's already there, Snipe, because you can access these areas that, yeah, it wouldn't really make sense if you didn't have a Newcastle, Gibby, and a Rampart.
Yeah, I mean, the Rampart alone gives you can set up 3 walls by the time the bubble goes down. So it's just one of those metas right now where a lot of spots that you weren't able to play, you're able to take space, you're able to hold it, and with the way that all these other teams are working and moving around, the ability to hold these spots and other teams move in, people are going to get distracted. There's too much happening around you. They can't just focus on breaking all your walls, your Newcastle wall, your Rampart walls, all of that. Like burning the Sheila is one way to do it. But overall, it's a meta that patience is going to pay off, and it's one of those you can't just capitalize on every pick that you get. You have to wait. You have to make sure that it's your time to move in. And I think, you know, this is going to stand out on who actually is the most disciplined of the teams.
It's a great way to kick this off. What a series start we've just had. And of course, Fnatic, hometown heroes, well, they are the hometown favorites and now the winners of our first series. Let's go ahead with Ryan Hart, who is standing by with none other than Yuka.
I'm here, yes, Fnatic dominant in that first sequence of matches. Yuka standing next to me, and he is victorious with his teammates, of course, not only in Sapporo, Japan, but the first ever ALGS match with Japan coming out on top. Yuka, 今までもいくつかの試合をもう勝ってはいるんですけれども、初めての日本で行った ALGS 試合で勝利し、自分にとってどんな意味をお持ちますか？
どんな意味を、とりあえず嬉しいものは嬉しいですね。ただグループステージなんでやっぱり、慢心せず今のこの、日本で開催された大会で、グループステージですけど1を取った嬉しさをかみしめつつ慢心せずにこれからも頑張りたいと思います。
So he says that of course he's happy about the win, but you know, it is just the group stages. There's not a time to get too confident or arrogant or anything like that. He's just going to play it cool and do his best with his teammates. Very smart decision indeed. で、次の試合に向けてチームとしての調子はいかがでしょうか？
そうですね。その長期間のスクリーム期間を経て。ちょっとまだ未完成な部分があったんですけど、やっぱりその試合の中でいろいろ修正していって、そうですね、次もまだ修正ですかね。
これからですよね。
はい、ファイナルに向けてどんどん調整して仕上げていきたいと思います。
So they've reduced their scrim time and had a lot of things actually come out. They had a few issues that they were concerned with, but during the actual matches, things have been going well for them, as you saw. And yeah, they're very focused on the finals and getting as far as they can and doing as well as they possibly can. So I guess that's going to be it from me here on the ground. And I'm going to hand over to Lace, who is standing by with Guild.
And I am here with Phony from Guild. It's so great to be here. I mean, you guys were a little bit shaky in the start, but you managed to pull it together with absolute grace. How has your transition been joining Guild?
It's been very good, transitioning with the boys, Jessica, Legacy, and Winnie. Of course, it wasn't as smooth as I thought it would be, considering I had to go to Thailand. But once we, cleaned up the bad habits, our team chemistry was built up really well.
Well, welcome to the Aussies, that's what I have to say. How is your strategy going into today's matches?
It was mainly just to play and bounce off of each other's thoughts. The boys, when it comes to game sets like this, it's very hard to bring up the energy very early game. So my main premise was to just get the energy up there throughout the games, even if it took, a one deficit game of 0. I'd rather do that and get the game's energy up for the next set.
Well, that's exactly right. You're kind of the glue that holds this together, Everyone needs that sort of stuff, and that's you, Phony. If there's one thing that you could change about your performance today, what would it be?
I would say probably slow it down, give us time, or give myself time to think about transitions. Either create an opening before I do a